Hello, friends, and welcome to another edition of Transformational Astrology. I'm Henry Seltzer, and we're doing this as a recording. It's not going to be actually live on Facebook. You'll be able to see it in the newsletter that we send out. And I'm actually not even here right now because I'm on vacation. So we're doing this as a recording. We do want to talk about this full moon that's coming up really quickly here on the 15th. And it's a very interesting full moon. And let's go ahead and transition to the chart. So here we are in the full moon chart, and as you can see, as usual, we have the sun opposite the moon, 22 degrees of both Leo and Aquarius. So Venus is actually also at 22 degrees of Leo. So that's very interesting because normally we don't see a partile or same degree conjunction between the sun and Venus, or the sun and any planet, in a full moon chart. So even though this is not a full moon eclipse like the last full moon, this is an important full moon simply because of the fact that not only do we have Sun and Venus partile with each other opposite the moon, but that's a very similar degree. 22 is a very similar degree to the degree of Pluto. So therefore we have a bit of a transformational factor going on here, and as you know from other conversations we've had about this, Pluto and Saturn are very closely aligned right now. They remain very close and parallel, not quite as entirely close as it was last month with the full moon of last month, which was an eclipse, and also they were completely close parallel. So we've been having for quite a while now Saturn and Pluto together, and this is fascinating. And the fact that Jupiter is together. Let me show you the degrees. In the time passages software, if you right-click on a planet, it tells you the declination, which in the case of Jupiter is 22.1 in a negative direction. In the case of Saturn is 22.4 in a positive direction, quite close together. And Pluto is even closer to the Jupiter position, being 22.2. So you see that all these three are parallel with each other. And with Saturn and Jupiter involved in a connection with Pluto, it really speaks to, because we consider Jupiter and Saturn to be the social planets, they have to do every 20 years they come together in a conjunction, and it's kind of a new beginning for the social situation. And right now, that's leading up to, they're coming together on December 21st of 2020 will be the next entirely perfect conjunction of Saturn and of Jupiter, and that will be on December 21st of 2020. But in November, the middle of November 2020, just before that, there's a triple conjunction as they're coming together with Pluto in Capricorn still. So Pluto right now is retrograding away from its 21 degree mark and will go backwards slightly, but then it will go forward again and be around 23, 24 by the time November of 2020 rolls around, when also Saturn and Jupiter are going to be joining, not exactly in the same degree, but very close degrees. And we consider this to be a big watershed moment for the whole society. Astrologers have been talking about that leading up to 2020. Interestingly, 2020 is a big year for the American scene because of the American election of November 2020, early November, and this is mid-November. So after the November election next year, which, as everybody knows, is a really big election with all these progressive Democrats vying with the moderate Democrats for who is going to represent that part of the electorate, and with the Republicans trying to back this conservative approach, even to the point of being racist, which is where Donald Trump is coming from, saying if you're not white, you really don't count so much. And the Republicans have been about that for a long time, you know. So this is an interesting time. If you're conservative, I apologize for not liking the Republicans too well. I don't like the way things are going at the border. Separating children from their parents at a young age is traumatizing. It's very wrong to do that, no matter what their citizenship. And also we welcome people asking asylum. That's a legal operation to come to the United States, ask for asylum from a difficult situation in their home country, and that's been overturned by this recent administration, which is trying to criminalize that process. I don't think that's okay, myself personally. So anyway, we do see a progressive movement trying to change some of these things and trying to provide better medical situation in this country to go beyond the Affordable Care Act, while meanwhile the Republicans are trying to dismantle the Affordable Care Act, which means there won't be as much insurance availability for the masses of people in this country. So that's a big election coming up. And I'm not trying to steer you one way or the other about the election, but just to recognize that it's coming to a head in the next year as this election process comes together, one of the most important elections in American history, I believe. And we'll see how that comes out, and we'll see what the aftermath of that election looks like when we have this triple conjunction with Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto in terms of longitude, in terms of zodiacal longitude. They'll be gathered in Capricorn. Well, the reason I bring this up now is because you can see by the parallels, these three planets are closely linked in this time frame. In the July time frame, the two important lunations of July, the new moon lunation, and then the 16th was the full moon lunation that was an eclipse. Those are both eclipses. And now we have the new moon of August, which was right at the very end of July. July 31st was the brand new lunation cycle for August, which goes on for 30 days in August up until there's another new moon on the 30th of August. Now, this current lunation cycle that we're in the midst of does feature Uranus, because that took place not at 22 degrees of Leo, but very early in Leo, at about the 8-degree mark of Leo. So there was definitely a connection between, also Venus was at 4. So there's a connection between Venus, the sun and moon, and Uranus at that new moon. So we're riding a Uranus cycle here of 30 days. And now at the full moon, we see that Pluto really comes strongly into it because of the position of the sun and moon being only 1 degree off from the position in Capricorn of Pluto. So we have Pluto coming up. We have Uranus in the whole cycle. And that is the transformational tenor of these times, that the times they are changing, as Bob Dylan put it in the volatile 60s, when we also had Pluto and Uranus in conjunction, as everybody can remember, I'm sure, and Saturn was involved in that as well, being opposite. So now we have again Saturn, Pluto, Uranus coming up. Now, Uranus won't be so much a part of this triple conjunction on 2020, but right now it's part of it, and this is kind of the fading out of the Pluto-Uranus square, because Uranus does retrograde. It's retrograding now. And in the time passage of software, we can actually see how far back it's going to go. Does it get all the way back into the previous sign or not? And we can right-click, and we see that actually the next station is at 2 degrees of Taurus. Well, the thing about 2 degrees of Taurus, though, it is still within that 10-degree mark of the 22-degree mark, which is where Pluto was going to be around that time. So that is very interesting, and we will see that Pluto-Saturn in January of 2020 come together in a conjunction, and that is a perfect conjunction. I forget the degree, it might be 23 or something like that. And that will be within the 10 degrees, you see, of this square. So that's kind of the dying of this Pluto-Uranus square, the opening square from the conjunction that we experienced back in 2013, 2015. So we are seeing this carry through all the way through the teens right up till 2020, and it is a time of great change. It's a time that goes back to the conjunction of the 60s in the sense that we're trying to, as a society, as a culture, we're trying to see how far those ideals of the 60s can be translated into mainstream activity, and how much we can pay attention to the needs of the planet. Sustainable agriculture has been a factor in people's thinking ever since the 60s, and now it's very much part of this current thinking, and we are seeing a lot of Earth issues coming to the fore in this timing. And of course that is another factor in the election, because the Republicans don't want to do so much about that, whereas the Democrats are saying that it is important to take care of climate change, which I subscribe to. I think it is something that needs urgent attention, and we only have 12 years according to the scientists. So that's where we are as far as the society goes. Now, thinking about where we are individually, it does reflect back, because individual actions do, every individual action adds up, so that it is up to the people of this country to decide who the next president's going to be and what the course of this country is going to be. It's up to the masses of the public and the consciousness of the public, and everybody contributes to that by their individual actions. Nobody is powerless. Everybody is incredibly powerful in this timing, because if you stand up for what you believe in, if you articulate your deepest values at this time, as indicated by this new planet Eris, which is a feminine warrior energy for soul intention. It is just all about speaking up for what you, and here's the symbol for it, speaking up for what you deeply believe. And that was very prominent in this mid-July eclipse that we just had, because they're still opposite each other at 24 degrees of Capricorn. It's squaring the 24 degree of Capricorn, because it's 24 degrees of Libra and 24 degrees of Aries. And the Capricorn full moon of last month was this eclipse full moon at 24 degrees of Cancer and Capricorn. So I think it's quite interesting to see the way the planets are lining up, and we can look around us and see that that's what's happening. It is a time to stand up, a time to stand up and be counted, a time to take action, a time of societal breakdown and reconnect, and everybody is part of that process. So we do have, again, in this whole 30-day cycle, a strong amount of Uranus coming in. And it is important to recognize that Uranus and Taurus is all about tuning into intuition, tuning into bodily needs, maybe the needs of the planet, recognizing that there's new paths that need to be formed. We have to get out of the old ruts and deal with things individually as well as collectively. And so it's a time not to ignore those impulses that you have to try to create a better situation for yourself, to try to be more in alignment with where your spirit is really taking you. And I think that's the message of this timing. It is true that Uranus is still a factor in this full moon, because we have Mercury coming to perfectly square Uranus. So it's very much in our awareness, the possibility of new roads, new paths. Uranus, often called trickster energy, considered freedom from the known, freedom from the way we used to do things, a new way of looking at things, a new beginning, a way of social evolution. And society is evolving, and each one of us is evolving along with it and in concert with it and on our individual paths to awareness. So that's what's going on. The fact that we have also a stationing, Jupiter just has stationed a few days ago on the 11th, before this 15th, August 15th full moon, Jupiter stationed to direct motion. So it's going forward now in this chart. And look, it's so close. It's exactly the same degree, one sign away, so that's a semi-sextile. So there's actually a longitudinal connection between Jupiter and Saturn, as well as the parallel declinational connection. And that's very important to recognize, that Jupiter's important now, and it is belief in the future, belief that we can somehow surmount these things, an optimistic viewpoint. And that's very much in the picture, along with stationary Uranus, which is just stationed at this degree a few days before, same day, the 11th. So this is a very interesting chart. It does tell us that we're in the midst of something important. It's good to pay attention now. Pay attention to what your impulses are inside you, what your mind is telling you at a subconscious level, talking to your conscious mind. Be aware of all those layers of your psyche and where you're really headed and what you need to do to be more authentic, to be more the person that you really want to be. I think that's what this is all about right now. And it is exciting that we're seeing all these reflections of what's coming up in 2020. I think it's a time, it's kind of a preview of the time that's coming at the end of 2020, a year from now, a year and a bit. So that's the story of this full moon. I think that covers just about everything I wanted to say. Yeah, just to recognize that the planets in the sky are a good reflection of what's going on with us individually and the way they hit your individual chart as well. So let's transition back. And I just want to leave you with the thought that astrology is just a reflection of what goes on. You know, it doesn't replace tuning into what's up for you. You know, your intuition, your angel guides tell you what you need to know, and you get clues from everything. You get clues from everybody that you're in connection with. Partners are very important that way. They give you a mirror, a reflection of yourself that can be very useful in how you change. And the Time Passages software is also on sale this month of August. Just to mention that you can get the advanced edition at a good chunk of discount right now. And it's very full and complete. You can do comparisons with other people and see a lot of interpretations for transits and for natal that come included with that. So thanks for watching, and good luck with it all, and have a great summer, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye now.